Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are in the United States or abroad. Thank you for joining us for Hot Topics. We're really glad to have you here today. We have a first-time speaker, Connor Starr. He is a Sage Intacct consultant with LBMC Technology Solutions, and he's a new member of our team, joining in June of 2024. He brought with him a wealth of experience in finance and tax accounting and financial management, and he gained that experience over his years at SharePoint Technologies. Well, prior to beginning his consulting career, Connor held various positions in local CPA firms and other organizations and received a certification from the Dale Carnegie course. In his role here at LBMC Technology, Connor leads the full life cycle of implementation projects, from initial planning and requirements gathering to configuration, testing, and deployment. He provides expert guidance on best practices and industry standards to optimize client business processes and system functionalities. He also conducts training sessions for users to ensure successful adoption of Sage Intacct. And one of the things that we believe is that proficient users are very happy users and really get a lot more fulfillment out of the solution. So if we could go to the next slide, I'm going to do some quick housekeeping before I turn it over to Connor. Are you able to
Yeah,
progress that? There we
there we
go.
go.
Now I'm seeing it. So if you have any questions, we have a team of consultants who are standing by. So if you find the Q&A function, please enter your questions there. Don't be shy. Um, the last time we got together, it was a very robust group and lots of great questions came up. And I realized that many of you might be here to, in addition to learning more about Sage Intacct, you also want to earn some CPE credit. So in order to do that, please note that all poll questions must be answered. And following the webinar, you will receive one or two emails from us. Everybody will receive an email containing slides, a link to the recording, and a link to a survey. So please allow up to 48 hours to receive that email. And then if you are eligible for CPE credits, another sister company of ours actually processes those requests and send out your certificates. And they ask that you allow up to 2 weeks to receive those. Now, if you don't receive your certificate within 2 weeks, my email address is here. Let me know, and I will chase that down for you. So without any further ado, I am going to mute myself, and Connor, it's all yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Don, for the introduction. Thanks everybody for joining the call today. I'm excited to walk through this webinar with y'all, where we're going to go through custom invoice templates. We're going to look at some custom email templates as well, navigating those, and then we'll get into the new features for the release one quarterly update that Intact came out with earlier this month. My goal for this hot topics portion of this webinar is going to be very approachable. Hopefully, we're not going to get into the complex types of changes you can make to custom invoice templates with formulas and things like that. We're going to also try to stay in the Intacct environment as much as possible. I know that I think people get a little bit more out of demonstration than me just reading off slides to you. I think you could read those yourself. So I'm going to try to do as much demonstration for y'all so you can get a visual experience as well. Anything that we do cover in the demonstration, I do have in slide form. So don't feel like you're getting shafted by me showing you and you're going to have to go through that recording afterwards and try to scan through and find where I talked about a certain thing that you're looking for. Everything we're going to go through demonstration, I do have in slides, so you'll get the best of both worlds when you get that email containing these slides and the recording. If it's just, where was that screen that he needed where when he was looking at downloading the templates, then you can go to the slides and find it. If you need the more navigational experience of what steps I took to get there, then you can go through that recording and see the demonstration. So you will get both at the end of it. So don't feel like you're not going to be able to find the information you need. But I'm going to try to keep it as approachable as possible. We get support tickets all the time for, how do can you update this year for me? Can you update our logo? Can you move this line up or down a little bit? All those simple edits that really are really not that hard to do, and maybe it's just you don't know how to do them, and you can own those yourself um, instead of asking us to do them for you. And it's just, you would love to do it yourself, but I just don't know how to get there or what to do when I do get there. So that's kind of what our goal is for the Hot Topics portion today. I'm going to show you how you can do those simple edits. And then you'll get an understanding of if you're not utilizing these templates, how we can utilize them to improve our business process. So without further ado, we'll kind of start getting into that, but that's just a little overview for you of my goal today. And so our learning objectives are going to be to understand the purpose and functionality of these printed documents in Intact and how they impact your customer communication. We're going to learn how to customize and update those to reflect your brand and business needs, discover those best practices for efficiently managing and utilizing these custom invoice and email templates to streamline your workflows. And then, of course, we're going to review those key highlights from Sage Intacct's newest release and learn how those new features can improve your business processes. So first thing, we're going to get into our invoice templates, and that is going to start us off with a polling question. And that polling question should be up on your screen. Are you currently utilizing custom invoice templates? There is a yes, no, I think so. And then what even is a custom template? I have no idea, and that's why I'm here.
And we'll give everyone a few more moments to answer, but look over your choices and make your selection. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. And Connor, here are the results. It's
All
pretty
right.
much split.
Yeah, I see that. So that's good. So we got people that are using them. So that'll be good. Hopefully, for those of you that are using them, this will help you in owning those edits. For those of you that aren't using them, then hopefully this is a great session to encourage you to utilize these to reflect your brand. So that's great. 50-50 split. That lets me know that what we're covering today is going to be useful to everybody in some way. So let's get into some of these slides. We're going to start off in the slides and then I'll kind of get into the environment. So just to start off with, what is a printed document template? So these are going to allow that creation of a branded template from within Sage Intacct. So you can see there in that screenshot on the left, that would be our transaction within Intacct. This is just an example of a sales invoice. We fill out all that information. And then over there on the right would be our document. So you can see it is pulling all that information out of Intacct and into a document for you to then send on to your customer. So it's looking at all those data points of dates, invoice numbers, transactional information, giving you all that total discount information at the bottom, and giving you all the information you need to be able to get the information efficiently over to your customer. So you can just kind of see the raw data perspective, how you entered in versus our output over there on the right. This is just an example of a workflow in terms of your workflow when it comes to um, starting to work on um, customizing and creating these templates. So first thing we would do is create that template. I will show you with an Intacct how you can find already standard kind of preset templates that you can download and then tweak off of those. So you're not starting from a Word doc from scratch because that would be overwhelming. So we will navigate to where you can find those templates where you can download and work off of. You would then upload that document to Intacct, assign that to a transaction or a customer. So we'll also show you how you can assign those, kind of setting defaults in the configuration of the module versus assigning to a particular transaction when you're going to print, or assigning as a default on a customer level. You would then print that, test that template, edit, kind of stay in that cycle as needed, whether it's not pulling the right field, whether it's, spacing is a little off, things like that. Kind of stay in that cycle as needed for testing. And then once you get it right is when you move on to that final stage of printing and emailing your document out. So where can these be used? So these can be used in a handful of modules, handful of different transactions, accounts receivable. You can use these within your invoices and statements, order entry, sales quotes, sales orders, shippers, sales invoices, purchasing, purchasing request and purchase orders, and inventory control, transfers, and adjustments. So what we're going to be going over today, we're going to keep, like I said, we're going to be keeping it as simple as possible to be approachable for everybody. So we'll be looking at accounts receivable invoices, since that's kind of the most common core module there. But that is not to say that you cannot use these templates in other areas, as you can see there. So we'll be looking at AR invoices, but just know you can use these elsewhere for what applies to you and where you really want to utilize these. So what can be added? So we have merge fields, and if you look at the word merge fields and you say, I have no idea what a merge field is, I've never heard of that in my life, then hopefully we will fix that by the end of the day as well. It is not as daunting as it sounds. All it is, it looks maybe confusing when you're looking at a template for the first time, and you're like, that's some kind of coding language that I don't understand. I wasn't in computer science, and I never thought I'd be in computer science, that sort of thing. It is not that scary. It is just a data field pointing to the field in Intacct, so that when you upload that template, it can populate the correct information for you. So we'll look at not only how you can locate merge fields. If you're like, I don't know how I would even know what a merge field is within Intacct. Luckily, they have a list of them for us. So I'll show you how you can find those merge fields, and I will show you how you can add them to your templates. You can add in static text. So if there is payment information, even address, if you just have one address, things like that, where you don't necessarily really need a data field being pulled from, and it's always going to be the same on every template to every customer that you would ever send out, then you can just type in that text directly as well. And then there's all the wonderful formats and fonts that you have there to customize it to your liking. And then you have images, so logos or any other type of branding that you want on your templates, and then your image types that you can have there as well. So plenty that you can do to customize these. Permissions. So not everyone can do this. So look at the permissions that you need in order to be able to customize these templates and work on them. First thing you would need to do is be subscribed to platform services or customization services. So that's going to depend on your company. So if you don't see platform services, you might see customization services. You need to be subscribed there. Accounts receivable. And then depending on if you're going to be using those other types of templates for those other modules, order entry, purchasing, inventory, if you're going to use your templates there, you would need to be subscribed to those as well. Now for creating the template, then you're going to need to be a business user, and you're going to need the list view add edit permissions for printed document templates. For assigning and updating the defaults, so we have our template in there. We want to assign, maybe we've created 5 different templates for 5 different customer types, and we want to add those defaults to each of those customers under each particular type. Then to assign those defaults, you would need to be a business user with the list view edit permissions for the customer. And then for assigning updating transaction definition defaults, then you would need, that would be for these transaction definitions for those other modules, order entry, purchasing, inventory. You would need to be a business user with a list view edit for one of those particular, whichever one you're using. And then for assigning and updating AR defaults, so the actual account AR module configuration, then that would be business with admin, limited or full, and then list view for printed document templates. So those are the permissions that you would need to be able to do all this fun stuff that we're going to go over. Then you have the printed document toolbar. So this is another piece of that configuration. I'm not going to get into this as much. One thing you will see on a lot of my slides that today, when you get that slide deck sent over to you, is that not as much necessarily in this hot topic, in this one in particular it is, but once we get to the release features, especially, a lot of these headers that I have here are going to have links to them, and they're going to be linked to the articles within Intacct to walk you through. So this one in particular, if we click on this, is going to take us to a Sage article for installing and configuring the Sage Intacct printed document toolbar. It kind of walks you through all the steps of installing it, configuring it. So that's going to give you the ability to use these printed document templates as well. So you can walk through those steps, and if you run into any trouble, you can reach out to us. But especially when we get into the release features, then those little headers on the template here or on the slide deck here is going to take you to that release, that particular portion of particular release article about that topic. So it will walk you through all the details of it, how it works, permissions, all that good stuff. So make sure that you are utilizing those just in case you didn't see that, then they are there. All right, well, let's get out of these slides and let's get into Intacct. And you can see here now, like a lot of these slides will be like this when you get them. They'll have screenshots, some of them will have some information, but it'll be kind of showing you like where we navigated to get there or information about it. So we're going to stay in Intacct for the majority of the rest of this hot topics, but you will have these slides available to you as well. So first part of this is navigation. So, let me get back up here. So how do we get to our printed document templates within Intacct? So that is going to be within platform services and then printed doc templates. So here is where you would find those list of preset templates that Intacct has available out there for you. I would love to say that there's a way for you to download all of these at once and be able to click through and view them. You would have to download them all individually and just get to the one that works best for you. They're all going to be a little bit different, formatted differently. A lot of them are going to provide you the same information that's available to you. They're just going to be kind of different styles to what works best for you. You will see which application they apply to. So whether it's accounts receivable, projects, order entry, all those different things that we looked at. We are going to be looking at this Intacct AR invoice as our example here. So what we would do to download this template is just click this little template link over on the right. And then that will download that for us. So we can see what that looks like in our output. So all these fields that you see on this screen right here, that you're like, that looks like coding language to me. Those are those merge fields that we were talking about. So you can see company name is being pulled here. So that would pull your company name, all your address information, all the billing contact information for the transaction that you're doing here, invoice number, things like that. So all these are just pointing to those fields within Intacct to produce that information for you when you go to print it out. So where you can locate these merge fields is actually within Intacct. Let me move this out of the way. Let's go to our help and support up here on the right. And then you can go to your help center. Within our help center, we can click under more up here, customization and platform services. And then you would see customized documents with printed document templates. So this is going to give you a lot of information. There's going to be a lot of you can see there's a handful of articles out here for how to use them, exporting them, customizing them, all the great things. Some of the things that we're going to cover here on our call today. So if you want to go get more information about them, then you can feel free to review these articles as well. Some of these will give you some more information about permissions and things like that, walk you through the steps as well. But what we're going to focus on is this merge fields option right here towards the bottom. And you can see on that first little step there, it has download this list of merge fields for printed document templates. So we are going to download that. All right. Hold that over for y'all. So now we have our list. So this will go through all the different transactions. So you can see that it kind of has our little uh, table of contents there. Order entry, purchasing, AR, all the different transaction types. Up here at the top, it has our company information. So this would just be um, the company information, company merge fields that would kind of apply to all these transactions because it's just pulling from that company side of things and not from the transaction itself. So when you need to pull in your company name or address. But if we scroll down, then we can see we would get to accounts receivable, invoices, sales invoices, tax invoices. So we can see invoice number, dates, customer IDs, and customer names. Pulling from all those different fields, this would be, you can pull from the header level of the transaction and also the line level of the transaction as well. So if you're wondering, well, how do I actually add these over on the template? It is as easy as copying and pasting. So if I pull this, copy record ID here, because I want to pull my invoice number on it. I'm not going to focus too much on placement because we already have it here, but I paste that in. That's all I would need to do is figure out where I'd want it on my template, copy it from that list, and paste it. You can also do it the manual way. It's just a little bit harder the manual way. So you would need to do Control F9 and then edit that, right click, edit that field. And that'll give you a list of field names over on the left where you would scroll down to merge field. And then I could type in manually record ID. And we'd get the same output. So easiest thing to do is downloading that template, downloading that list of fields, and then
Connor,
just copying, pasting as in. Yes,
we have a question in the chat,
of
and
course.
Mike is asking, he says, I'm following along, but on my Intact, it is requiring me to download Intact Toolbar 2.0. Is this
Yeah.
actually required? Most people won't be able to install an exe file without IT or admin access.
Yeah, so you would need to go through that that article that we looked at early on, that's in that PowerPoint slide, and download and install that toolbar to be able to utilize this functionality. And that will require some web service authorization turned on as well, or set up as well. So that would be that cdocs_v2. So you install that toolbar, set up that web service authorization, and then that kind of gives you this functionality. So hopefully that answers that question. All right. I'm going to remove these merge fields because they already exist up there, but that is how you can add these in. So that's how you would enter in merge fields. The other types of edits we see, one that you would see you would definitely want to do up here would be adding in that logo. So on a lot of these preset templates, it'll already have that kind of logo field available for you wherever you want to enter it. And all you need to do is just paste your logo in there. So what we could do is click on that box to where it says your logo here, and then insert and pictures. We'll go from this device. And luckily I have our LBMC Tech logo here that I can add in. Now I could resize that if I needed, and I expand that box that it has available for me, and then expand my logo a little bit so I can resize as needed to fit my liking. But you can add your logo in that way. You could also try to do it the what seems like the easy way, but maybe not as much the easy way of just kind of dragging your picture over. So I could just take my logo and pop it, but you never know how big that's going to be. And then there's a lot more resizing, and maybe it gets in the way of some other fields, and then it just becomes a chaotic mess. And what could have been just as easy as maybe taking those couple extra steps to just insert the picture into the preset field for it has become a little bit more hectic, dragging and dropping because the logo is just a little too big and you got to do a lot more resizing. So either way works, but I would kind of recommend just inserting the picture where it has the spot available for you. Then the other types of edits that we haven't looked at are those static text. So you can add in that static text in there. For example, let's say I just really don't like this footer, and I would like it to look a little bit different. I can just clear all this out. And I do have, I'm not gonna make y'all watch me type a whole footer in here. I'm just gonna copy the one that we have from LBMC and plop it in here. And we can see all this wonderful new payment information. So this would be our instructions for LBMC Tech. If you haven't seen these instructions before, go see if you have any statements out there. No, I'm just kidding, kinda. But we have all that. So now this would take away really from me needing this remit information here. Um, maybe I really already have my bill to information up here as well. So I could get rid of that. And you can see you can just kind of play around with the template as needed. But I like this at this point. We've kind of looked at our few simple edits. We've added in a logo, looked at adding in some merge fields, how to, added in some text down here. So let's see what this actually looks like in action now. So I'm going to save this. I'll save as uh, topics demo 2025. And then I can get rid of that for now. So let's get back into Intacct here. So first thing would be, I need to get my template uploaded into the system. So I would navigate back to my printed document templates. And I would go, easiest thing to do is just go find that Intacct AR invoice. And then I'm going to duplicate this. And that's going to give me this information. So we'll call this topics demo 2025. I could give it a more detailed description. I could make it a default template. We know that we want this to apply to our accounts receivable invoice. I went ahead and pulled that from duplicating the other. And then I'm going to choose my file. And I will make sure that this is active. So we will save that. So a couple things that you can do, areas where you can kind of add this template in. We can add this into our AR configuration if we wanted this to just be the default one that we used. So we could go to accounts receivable, setup, and configuration. And then I could scroll down to our printed document templates and add in my demo there. We can save that. If you wanted to make it the default on the customer, then you would go to accounts receivable, customers. We'll just click edit on any one. Then under that additional information tab, we would scroll down to where it says printed document templates, and we could add in our invoice there as well. So a couple different areas where you can make it the default. Well, let's create an invoice and test out our template. So we'll go to AR, invoices. We'll add in a new one here. Right, give our customer, we'll just choose an account. We'll say $2,000. We'll give it our required dimensions. And we will post it. So a couple different ways that you can test this out and print it out. So if I click that print or email option over here, it's not going to give me an option to select a template. It is going to use that one that I have set as the default on the configuration. So it will use the one that we added. So I could click print or email there, print, click OK. And then there is our wonderful template. So we can see our logo, we can see our payment information down here. One thing that we would notice right off the bat here, though, is that our address is missing. And so we would need to go fix that and then test again. The other area that you can print this out to test would be clicking on accounts receivable, going to print or email here. Choose the type of transaction that you're wanting to print. So we would want to do invoices. This will pull up an option, pull up kind of a filtering list where you can filter out the invoices that you're wanting to print. You can set your sender email address and name here. You can set your date range, kind of filter for customers, things like that. But down here, you can see that printed document template. On this list, you would actually be able to choose which template you want to print. So if you are someone that has created multiple templates for multiple different customers, then you would want to make sure that you're doing it this way, because Otherwise, you're not going to be able to choose, and it's just going to use that default. This would give you the ability to kind of give those filters for the customers that you're looking for, and then uh, select the appropriate template for them. In this instance, we're not going to worry about filtering anything, and I'll leave it at that Hot Topics demo because that's what we want. And I'll click View in the top right. There is our $2,000 one. We can preview that, and we would get that same output as well. So there's our template with our logo and everything. So we know that we would need to fix this because we don't have an address in there. So in this instance, I know that I downloaded that template from Intacct, and I didn't add any of those merge fields. If I had added in a merge field for address myself, then I would think, maybe I just did that merge field wrong. Let's go check the template and re-upload. In this instance, I never changed that, so I know it's something within our setup in our environment that I would need to go change. And this is a common edit we get as well with people wanting to change like phone numbers and stuff like that as well. Well, I think there's a support ticket out there for one right now. And so where you can go to change that information instead of needing to change it on the template would be going to your company setup. And I can see that I just don't have an address there. So I can edit this. I can go to our address line, just say 123 Demo Lane, and save that. And then now if I go back to our invoices and go to print that one again, then I can see our address in there now. So sometimes it's not always the template. Sometimes it's just you need to go look at those fields that it's pointing to and make sure that the information is there. Other times, if it's a merge field that you've added manually yourself, then it might be going back and editing that merge field and then re-uploading. And what that would look like if I needed to re-upload my template, I would go back to Platform Services, Printed Doc Templates. I would go find my custom one. Typically, it places them at the end of your list, so I just kind of go to the end. And you know that it's the custom one based on the document owner. So you can see all these are Intacct owned. So those are all those standard templates. We can see that this one is my external user. It's the one that we customized. So you would just click edit, and then you would just choose that new file. So nothing crazy that you need to do. Just go to that template and that Word doc, fix whatever fields that you need to fix, save it again, and then choose that file and re-upload it. I would recommend, just as best practice, saving as a new file, just in case you get a little too far down the rabbit hole of edits and then you're like, I just really want to go back to the first one that I had. So make sure in terms of how you're saving them, that if you feel like you got it mostly right the first time and just need to make some tweaks, you go ahead and save that one and then work off of a new one to make any changes. So just so you don't get too far straight away if you're trying to do some more complex stuff. You can do like if formulas and things like that and those templates, but we're not going to get into all that fun fancy stuff. But it is capable out there, so you can review some of that article information to see what you can do if you're looking to kind of enhance your knowledge on that. But that is going to kind of take us to the end of our invoice template portion of this. And we are going to go into email templates. So kind of go hand in hand with our invoice templates. Look at the email side of things. That is going to lead us to poll question number 2, very similar to poll question number 1. And that is, are you currently utilizing email templates? Same answers available to you there. I'm sure that we'll see some correlation between the first one, but yes, no, I think so, but not sure. And then what is a custom
Is
email template?
is
Yes, Don.
everybody can can the audience let me know if they can see this? It's showing up on my screen, but I want to make sure that it's showing up. No, you're not. Okay, I'm going to try to relaunch this.
Okay.
Any better luck this time?
I see it, Don, so I'm
All right,
thinking that they will see
very good.
it.
Sorry about that. Thanks everyone for letting me know. Appreciate it. Give this a few more beats. Then I'm going to end the poll here. And again, we're our audience is split, Connor.
Yes, I figured that there would be some correlation with that first question, so that's good. That's what I expected to see after seeing the results of the invoice templates, that email templates would kind of follow that same trend. So that's good to see. All right, well, let's get into utilizing those email templates. So what are email templates? Those are going to be an efficient way to automate sending one or more document attachments just with a standard message to maybe it's just one customer or multiple customers or vendors. You can create a variety of templates that can be used for different situations. So you could have, a season's greetings email template. You could have your standard AR payment invoice template or email template. So you can kind of tailor these to certain situations, just kind of like you can tailor those invoice templates to certain customers, certain types, things like that. So this could be from sending out those monthly invoices to contract and renewals, uh, or however you want to utilize these. So let's get back into Intacct. And where we're going to go to navigate to these is not going to be in platform services. It is going to be within our company setup and then email templates. And for who asked about the printed document template toolbar, you should not need that for this portion. So if you wanted to follow along on this email template portion, you wouldn't need that toolbar executable installed for this. So you should be able to get to email templates without that. So we can see we have one out there. We'll look at that, but let's just look at if we were to add one and what fields are available to us. So email template, we would just want to give it a name. So this could be our holiday template or AR invoice one, our standard one. So we would just give it a title, give it a further description, and then you would define what type it is. So where it's going to apply to. So AR invoices, statements, dunning notice contract, and then our order entry or purchasing transactions. So give it your template type. Attachments, you can choose to include all those document attachments in the email. So that would be including our wonderful, pretty custom invoice template that we work so hard on and including that with the email that we send out as well. So you would check that box if you want to include those attachments, make sure that its status is active. Then we get into our address information here. So reply to email address. So this is going to be the email address that the recipient of this email would be replying to. So whether you have a like team, a company AR designated email that they reply to, like LBMC Tech AR, or if you just have like an administrator email that it all goes to an actual person, then you would put their email there and then reply to name. Then you would get into who this is going to. And so this is where you would need to put in those merge fields for the billing contact address so that it automatically picks up who this needs to go to based on the customer that you're or vendor that you're sending it to. So it will give you an assistance in with this little field lookup for contacts. So you're not trying to have to go look at that merge list to see or what it is, and uh, that you're trying to look for. So you have field lookup for contacts, and then ship to emails or bill to contact emails. So if we select bill to contact email 1, it gives us our wonderful little field there. We copy that and just paste it into the 2. Now, if the customer has 2 addresses and we wanted to pull both of those, then we could get that email too and drop that into the CC. You can also put multiple emails in one line. So it's not just one email per box. They would just need to be separated by commas, kind of like it would be if you were sending an email in Outlook. So you could technically put both in that 2 line if you wanted to. It would just be comma email 2, whichever way works best for you. So they would just need to be separated that way. Then you would get into your message content. So we would get our subject. So what's going to go in that subject line of the email, and then what's going to go in our body of the email. And for both of those, you have field lookups as well. So you have field lookup for the document elements. So for our example here with the AR invoice, this would be looking at elements related to that invoice in particular. So invoice number, customer information, dates, amounts, all those wonderful things that we might want to pull into the body or header of the email or subject of the email. And then we would get into our company elements as well. So if you want to put in and pull fields for your company information, company name, company address, all that wonderful stuff as well. So this would be a combination of text and those fields to get you to the point that you like. You can select this checkbox to include logo as well, but I'm not going to make you watch me create a whole one from scratch. So we'll just go over to this AR invoice auto pay that we already have out there and look at this one. So you can see we have our title, template type invoice. We are including attachments. Reply to email address is mine. It's going to our billing contact. And then we have our wonderful information out there for, this would give us our company name and then would give them their invoice number so they would know which invoice number it's tied to. Dear that customer billing contact. Then it's just letting them know this would be if they were enrolled in our auto pay, just kind of a courtesy, no further action, but your account has been drafted. So we will look at adding this into our AR module. So same thing when it comes to setting it up configuration wise, we could go to accounts receivable, setup, configuration, and add it as a default within here. So we'd see right under printed document templates, we would see our email templates. And then we could add in that AR invoice auto pay and save that. We could also add it to the customer as well. Go to our customers, edit, additional information. And then down here in our email template options, select our email template. So same as adding the invoice templates in there. And then when we go to print, let's go to print straight from that screen. Look at our invoice, print, or email. So this one we are going to email, and we'll email. Oh, it's going to make me, doesn't like me doing the autofill stuff. We'll type it in. Make sure that I have that template type in there. We'll give this a name. And then click OK. So I had print and email selected, so it will print it for me as well. But then I should get an email come through. To give me the information. I heard the ding in my headset, so there we go. All right. There we can see LBMC Tech, our invoice number. We have our wonderful invoice template attached for us right there. And then all that information. So you can see it pulled that customer name, provided all that information, letting them know that the account is enrolled in autopay and the account has been drafted by the due date. All right. So that is how you can utilize those email templates along with your invoice templates. So those kind of go hand in hand together, and you can use those to efficiently communicate with your customers, and you can see that you can use them in a variety of different ways and a variety of different areas as well. But that is going to conclude our hot topics portion of this webinar, and we will get into our release features. I will give everyone a second to maybe take a quick breather from me, and I'm going to take a quick drink here, and then we'll dive right into it. Okay. So we're going to be going through not all of the features that Intacct has available out there for the new release, but we are going to go over a good handful of them. It's going to be focusing on the highlights from them. I feel like I've kind of picked ones out that hopefully apply to majority of the people on this call. Some of them are a little bit more niche and that might not apply, but are just more important updates to particular modules. Some of these updates range from visibility changes that are really minute to kind of cool new features that are bigger deals. So we're going to kind of be hitting the full spectrum there on what we're looking at in Intacct's newest release. And hopefully we're going to be kind of bouncing back between some demonstration, some slides. It'll probably be a little bit more slide heavy than the hot topics portion, just because if I was to try and demo all these features, we would run out of time. And I want to make sure that we are making the most of our time today. But like I said, in all of these slides, you do have that link in the header to the article itself, which I'll show you. But let's dive into it. That is going to take us though first. We'll do a quick little polling question. And this will be our third polling question of the session. And this will be,
Bear
do
with me
you,
here.
oh yes,
It's, let's see.
giving you fits again?
It is. All right. Sorry, it's being so sassy. You should be able to see the poll question now.
All right, so you should see, do you review the release notes when they become available to you on your homepage in Intacct? Yes, I look to see if any new changes apply to me. Maybe you skim through it, but don't really give it much thought. Just see that it's there. wait for these wonderful webinars to see what's out there for you, or those are on the homepage. I don't pay attention to the homepage. And I didn't realize that they existed there.
Please make your selection. I'll be closing down the poll. All right.
All right. So looks like a good mix. Um,
Yeah.
looks like everybody's kind of across the board there, so that's good. We have a wide variety, wide range. That's always good. Well, let's get into some of these new features. All right. First couple ones that we're going to look at aren't necessarily tied to any particular module, but are just out there, kind of good information, or just kind of apply to Sage as a whole. So this first one here is going to be the Sage Copilot. Uh, so this is going to be kind of a new search help feature. Right now it is in a phased rollout. So we can kind of click here. But you can see natural language understanding. So Copilot understands the nuances of Sage Intacct terminology and can interpret some complex queries. Kind of similar in a little bit of a way, ChatGPT and all those kind of taking over the world these days. So this is Sage Intacct's version of that. So increased efficiency, significantly reducing those search times, and the need for multiple searches, and intelligent recommendations. So it's going to provide suggestions for related topics and articles to expand your knowledge. So how that works, your company would be enabled to use search help with Copilot. You'll receive a welcome message when you log into Sage Intacct informing you that you can see a new search help option in the help and support menu, which you can see in that screenshot there. So like I said, kind of going back for a second. So this is phased, been kind of a phased rollout. I think they plan on ending that phased rollout over the next month, is what I was told by one of our coworkers, confirmed by Intact. So this will be something that's coming to everyone in the near term. So you may not see this option now, uh, but so you would be enabled to use that search help with Copilot. And then selecting search help opens up the Copilot panel on the right side of the screen, which would look like this, where you can then kind of type in what you're looking for there. So it'd just be normal language. So if you've ever used like a ChatGPT or something like that before, you just kind of ask it whatever you want, plain and simple, and it'll figure out what you're looking for, and give you information. And it only continues to learn over time. So you can see just this example here. How do I export a report? And then it goes into kind of steps to export a report, walking in, going to that report center, clicking that export, uh, gives you a recommendation there. And then it also provides a couple articles there at the bottom for running a custom report writer report and exporting reports, where you could click on those links to take you out there. So make sure you're using natural language in that search box. The more specific you are, the more accurate those results will be, though. So that is Sage Intacct's it's called Sage Copilot. So that would be their new search help feature that will be coming to everybody here shortly, I'm sure. And that will be a very useful tool for those, maybe you're just stuck on something and don't need to go look through the long list of help articles to try and find what you're looking for. And you can just use that Copilot to assist you and get you to where you need to be. Next thing we have is user interface. So there's been some list enhancements. For this one in particular, we will get into Intacct, so I can show you. So if you haven't noticed before, so we have that enhanced list. So these will be kind of in a lot of different areas, in accounts receivable, accounts payable. You would see them on vendors as well. So our enhanced list, I think it's been out there for a while, not just this new release. So it's on this new release information. So I wanted to make sure to point it out. I think it's been out there beforehand too. It's just something that's kind of coming along and they're continuing to refine. So this is our wonderful standard list that we're all used to, where you can sort by columns by clicking on them. We could do our search. We have our advanced filters up here if we want to get more kind of advanced and detailed with our lookup. But if we turn on this enhanced list, then it's kind of bringing those enhanced filters down to the column level for you in a way. So in all of our columns now, we would see this little gear option. This would be our normal sort ascending, descending, but you do have this ability to freeze panes, which is really cool. So you could click that freeze, and then as you scroll through your list, you're not using those losing those column headers and forgetting where you're at. So I know that's very helpful. And then you can do text wrapping as well. Underneath those gears is our little filter by condition option, and this is where it's kind of bringing those advanced filters down to the columns for you. So this is where you could filter by, equal, starts with, ends with, contains, all those more complex filters that are usually up in that advanced filters list, kind of bringing down to this level as well. You can still do the click on the column header and it sort whichever direction you want. So you're not losing that functionality. So you don't have to click that gear to do the sort ascending, descending. You do also have a split view in here as well. So right now you can see where on this list view, we could go to a split view. And that kind of brings your list over here to the left side of the screen, and then your vendor over here on the right. So as I navigate throughout this list, it'll show me my vendor information on the right, so I can kind of stay in both areas. If I want to go back to my list, then I would just click on this little list view box here, and that will take me back to my normal list. If you're like, I hate this, and I want to go back to my standard view that I'm used to, then for now, you could just click off that turn off enhanced list, and it will take you right back to normal. And we could go back there. So that's those new list enhancements that they have out there. So like I said, you'll see that option in a lot of different areas throughout Intacct. And if you prefer those, then you can turn those on. Should remember when you turn it on. So if you close out of Intacct, next day log back in, you shouldn't have to turn that on every single time. It should remain on until you decide to turn it off again. All right, let's get back into our slides here. And that's going to bring us to poll question number 4, which is going to be a fun one, hopefully. I'm kind of curious to see the answers on this one because I just learned this from one of our wonderful coworkers the other day. And that is, what color is the dye when dried that is used to turn Chicago River green in celebration of St. Patrick's Day? Is it green? Is it orange? Or is it blue?
Give it a couple more seconds here. I'm going to end the poll. And Connor, the audience is a lot smarter than I was.
All right. Interesting. So looks like the majority vote was blue. It is actually orange. So I know you would think green, but when they actually pour that in to the river, it is orange until it makes contact with the water, and then it is green. So, well, fun fact for everyone for the day that I just learned this week as well. So now you have some fun new knowledge to go tell everyone as you get drunk over green beer on St. Patrick's Day in a couple weeks. All right, we're going to move into our a little bit more module focused updates here. So we're going to kind of move through them we'll kind of, if there's multiple features to them, we'll stay within each module and kind of progress through. So we're going to kind of start off here in accounts payable. And so this is going to be AP bill approval by vendor is going to be a new option available to you. So vendor-based approval that you can now turn on for your bill approval policy within your AP configuration. So you can assign these bill approvers directly to the vendor. We'll actually look at this one within Intacct so I can show you. So first thing you would need to do is set that up in your AP configuration. So go to accounts payable, setup, and then configuration here. We'll scroll down and we would get to our bill approval settings. So one, we would need to have bill approval enabled. We can manage our policies here. So the option that you wouldn't have seen previously would be this one right here, this vendor-based approval. So you can turn that on. So it wouldn't be anything else that you need to do in this little rule set or managing rules. You would set up that rule type for vendor-based approval. And then where you would go is to your vendor side of things. So we will go to accounts payable, all vendors. I'll click edit on any one of them. So down there on our additional information tab, we would see within our billing details that option to add a bill approver. So we would select them from our dropdown. You can see that groups are available in here as well. So you would select your bill approver there. Now, if you want to set up these bill approvers via import, so you're like, that's great. I want to use bill approvers. I don't want to go edit every single individual vendor to add all those bill approvers. I have 1,000 vendors. That would take me all day. That's just not worth it, even though I would like to use it. Then you can go to your company setup, import data. And then we can go to our vendors template. If you're not aware how vendors imports work in Intacct, then it will update any information that you have on the template to current vendors. So what you would need to do, set up all your vendor IDs in this template so you could export your vendor list out, set all your vendor IDs in there. You would want to go ahead and remove any columns that you don't want to update because if you just leave those blank, it shouldn't update those to being blank, but better to be on the safe side than sorry. Just remove any columns that you're not trying to update. You would need your vendor ID, and then over on the far right of this template is the new column for bill approver ID, where you could put in that user to update all those vendors across the board.
Connor, Melissa has a
Yes,
question. And
yes.
the question is, do bill approvers have to have an Intact license to be able to approve invoices?
It shouldn't, they should just need to be employee users. I can double check that, but I think it's just employee user. They wouldn't need a business user license because they're not actually business user versus employee user. Business users are affecting the general ledger. So they're doing something that is actively affecting the general ledger. Uh, with approvals, they're just looking at transactions and approving those. So they're not doing anything to actually impact the ledger. So they should just need to be set up as employees with the system and not a business license.
Okay, and Carla would like to know, can you add more than one bill approver in the template?
So on here on this template, so then you would need to assign if you have those user groups set up, then you would need to assign that user group to the bill approver. I haven't tested that portion of it, so don't quote me on that. But you would have that user group set up, uh, which should have an ID tied to it, and then you would set that bill approver, that user group ID into that bill approver ID column. on the template to populate that there. But you can't assign multiple. You couldn't just pick multiple individual people. They would need to be a user group. So yeah, you can see user or user group must have the approved bills list permission. So you can set up those user groups, assign them here. You couldn't do like Connor, comma, Don, but just set those into a group. All right. Any other questions out there, Don?
Oh, not that I'm seeing.
Okay, perfect. All right. Let's go to our next one. So there's our well screenshot there. So within AP, this one kind of applies to AP and AR in terms of customer and vendor visibility. This would be particular to the vendor or customer page and the restrictions. This more and one more is just a visibility, very small thing. I figured I'd add it in there. So if you are looking at a vendor and have restrictions on the vendor, we'll send this one into restricted vendor. It's just a different look with the restricted locations and restricted departments. So it is it's similar to adding entries in the vendor customer contact list. So it's just going to be a little drop down. You would select your location, select your departments. So it's going to just look a little bit differently here visually for setting those up. So if you are just open that and you're wondering if anything changed, nothing changed other than the look of it. So enhanced AR statements within accounts receivable. So this is actually going to kind of tie to what we were just talking about with printed document templates and our wonderful hot topics portion. So this would apply to statements in particular, so not invoices like we were looking at. So just AR statements, and that is the ability to include custom fields on printed document templates. So this would be custom fields that are on the customer itself. So if you've set up custom fields on the customer where you're tracking particular information about that customer that you want to then pull onto those templates, or if you have header level custom fields on invoices or AR adjustments that you're wanting to pull onto those statements as well. So that would be header level only, not line level custom fields. So header level custom fields for those. So we'll look at that where you can locate those. So back to where we were previously, platform services and printed document templates. You would navigate to one of the AR statement templates. Let me just duplicate this. So you see that checkbox to include custom fields. One other area that I'm kind of waited till now purposely to show you where you can find those data fields, especially for custom fields, because you're like, that's great that I can add custom fields. I don't know what the data ID in the custom field looks like. It should be the ID that you set up when you create that custom field. But if you had us create that custom field and aren't sure, then you could either go to your custom fields and see what those field IDs are. But another area within Intacct that's great is this little catalog here. So that was under customization tools within platform services catalog. Then this will kind of show you all the different areas within Intacct. And if I click a little drop down on any of these, then I have my field ID here. And you can see these four right here are custom fields. So it would give me my custom field IDs as well. So just a kind of another area where you can see IDs that you're looking for. So this would be the data side of things. So you just might always think of it as the name side, but here's a nice quick area to just show you the data ID side of things. So you can add those custom fields to your AR statements, which is a nice new feature. You would just need to make sure that that include custom fields checkbox is selected on your document template right there. There is increased capacity for larger AR statements runs. So this is going to be, it will automatically run in offline mode for customer statements if the run exceeds more than 100 customers. And then there's support for higher value or higher volume of AR statement processing. So the system can process approximately up to 2,500 customer statements, and that's going to depend on the number of lines in the statements.
Connor, we've got another question.
Yes.
Can you set up vendor approvals for invoices to be triggered by dollar thresholds? For example, all vendor invoices are approved by approver A, but if the invoice is greater than $5,000, it's sent to a secondary approver.
Let me see. And is that particular to the vendor-based approval, or is that just, are they just asking in general, I guess would be the question there. Because you can do value approvals and then add in your values. So that would be your value-based approval where you're going based off amounts. When it comes to that vendor-based approval, there's not going to be any rule set up for those. It would just be going based off the vendor that's being used. So it would just be pointing to that bill approver on the vendor itself, not any amounts. The value approval is where you would get into amount rules. So kind of yes, but kind of no, I guess, depending on what you're looking for in that question. So yes, can that be set up for vendor bills? Yeah, it can. Can it be set up in particular with that vendor-based approval? Not at this time, I don't believe. Okay. Also within accounts receivable is the receive payment retirement. So this is more just a PSA out there than anything. So this is going to be retiring the old payment receipts method in May of 2025. So when Intacct comes out with their new release, their second release in May, that receive a payment option will no longer be available. So right now, you can see in that screenshot there, you have at the current moment, you would have both of those options, receive a payment and receive payments new. May, that highlighted one's going to go away. So if you are somebody that is currently still using that older receive a payment method, I just might encourage you to start using the new method just so you get used to it. And if you need to ask any questions or have some time to troubleshoot, if it's not working a way you particularly want it to, then you can ask those questions and get those answered ahead of time. And you can always have that receive payment as a fallback in the meantime versus, waiting to use that new one until the old one's no longer available to you. And then you're trying to figure out that new method on your own without the fallback option. So I'd recommend just going ahead and using that new one as soon as you can. It's new for a reason. It's got better. It's an enhanced option for you, so it should be a more user-friendly option. But I know some people just like to stay the way that they've always done things. But I just don't want you to be caught off guard by anything when that new release comes around. All right. We're gonna be kind of slide heavy for the rest of it. I feel like I apologize, I know. But we're gonna get into cash management here, so natural payment files. So you can use naturally compliant file formats to improve the efficiency and security of the payment methods that you upload to the bank. So you can see that there's 4 new naturally compliant files that have been added there that you see on the screen. So how that would work is you would need to enable bank files if they're not already set up. So you would need to be subscribed to Sage Cloud Services. You would need to then enable bank files in the Sage Cloud Services subscription, and then update your checking accounts, vendor, and employee records to use the bank files and enter account details and assign permissions as necessary. So you can use that Natcha payment files link on the slide to kind of show you everything, how it works, permissions and other requirements. So you would need to be subscribed to accounts payable, cash management, Sage Cloud Services, and time and expenses. But there are those new Natch payment files out there and available for from the new release. There is also a bank transaction assistant that now supports draft payment. So you can create draft payments now through that transaction assistant. So this is uh, going to allow you to post draft payments in bulk from the posted payments page in accounts receivable. If you decide you no longer need a draft, you could simply delete it from the list. So I will get into some of these where I will show you kind of how you can turn it on. But for this one, you would go to cash management, bank transactions, select that cash in view, and select a transaction, assign it to a customer. And you can see on that screen there when you're in that receive payment, then you have that little checkbox to create draft payments. So if you've been using that before and have been wondering, I wish I could create a draft, then now you can. For Sage Fixed Assets Management. So this would not apply to those of you that are using SIG Fixed Assets. So there's kind of 2 fixed assets options out there that Intacct has right now. So there's the SIG Fixed Assets, which is an actual application that's being installed into your Sage environment for fixed asset tracking. This is the newer fixed asset management module that they have that's an actual subscription within their software. Been out for the last year or 2. I don't know the exact date. So this would just apply to that Sage Fixed Asset Management. But this is allows you the ability to transfer asset within an entity. Keyword there within an entity. So we will look at that. Let's go over to good way. I lied. We're actually getting back into Intacct. So if we go to fixed assets management and then go to our assets here, and we can click on one of our assets. And then we have a little transfer option up here in the top right. So we can click that. And then this will allow us to transfer to between our dimensions or allocations if we're using allocations. So you might look at this screen and say, well, locations there, I can transfer to an entity. I would love that. I have assets that change entities halfway through depreciating, and I've always wanted to be able to transfer them to a new entity, but I can't. Can't right now, so this looks like I could. False. I hate to burst your bubble there on that. It will give you an error if you try to change the entity if the asset is in progress. So if you add an asset and it's still in that review stage and you haven't placed it, if you haven't put it in service yet, then you could and you would be fine. If the asset is in progress and you try to transfer to another entity, it will give you an error and will not allow you to do so. So keyword in that new feature is transfer asset within an entity. So you could transfer departments, vendor, all the other dimensions that you see on this screen. You would just assign it a transfer date. So it knows when to transfer over to those new dimensions. And then you would click that transfer button up there. So you do have that capability. And then that is going to give you a transfer history little tab as well. So you would see kind of all that history of the asset transferring amongst the dimensions. So that is new capability. I'm sorry if you were really excited about being able to transfer between entities, maybe at some point, but not right now. General ledger. So we have there's a disallowed direct posting checkbox. So you can prevent direct posting to specified journals. So if you have this checkbox, users cannot create entries for the journal through the journal entries page and must post through the subledgers. So this setting also prevents the creation of journal entries through an import or API. So you will see a little screenshot there. I can show you how to get there to that screen if you're like, that looks great. I see the checkbox available, but I have no idea how to get to that screen. I will show you. That is general ledger, setup, journals. We can click edit next to anyone. And then there is our disallow direct posting checkbox that we have available there. All right. Then you have the automatic reclassification of regularization accounts. So to comply with regional reporting requirements, you can now set up these regularization accounts. So that's an account that can be classified as either an asset or a liability on the balance sheet. That's going to depend on the account balance at the time that financial report is run. If the account's balance does not match its normal balance, the account is eligible to be reclassified. So when you designate an account as a regularization account, you must specify its reclassification account. Intacct can then use that information to create the journal entries to handle the reclassification along with the reversing entries for the following period. So, for example, if you had account 1120, that's a regularization account, and account 2220 is selected as a reclassification account for 1120. When you run that GL regularization classification report, it shows that 1120 has a negative balance. You have the option to create a draft entry that moves the balance from 1120 to 2220. At the same time, a second entry is created that automatically reverses that reclassification entry on the first day of the next period. So after you post the journal entry, account 2220 would contain the balance, which is reflected in that liability section of the balance sheet. So you can kind of see that screenshot of how you can set up that account, turn it on as a regularization account, assigning that reclassification. You can click on that link to kind of walk you through more of the steps of enabling it. So you would need to enable it. I can show you where that enableization is. So if we go to General Ledger, Setup, Configuration, sorry, words, and then Enable for Regularization. So you would need to check that box and then designate your accounts, run that report. It kind of walks you through all the steps in that little article that I have out there from the new release. But you can utilize that new feature if that is something that applies to you. All right, for order entry. So you can now view dimension distributions in subtotal lines. So when you assign dimensions to transaction line items, all dimension details can now be automatically carried over to subtotal lines for entity level transactions. So keyword there, entity level transactions. This eliminates that need for manual entry of dimension information on those subtotal lines. So you can see a screenshot there of all that detail on those lines. Where you would go to configure this. I said I wasn't going to be an Intacct anymore, and here I am just taking y'all back and forth. But I just want to show y'all where you can set this up. So order entry, setup, configuration. Oh, I said keyword entity level, and then I didn't listen to myself. Let's go to an entity level. let's go to order entry, setup, configuration. And then here it is right here, distribute subtotals at the entity level. You would need that turned on. So then you could select and view a posted entity level transaction, select a line item with the assigned dimensions, and that show details, the dimension information would display. Next is automating revenue management even when billing using a different application. So this would automate, so you can automate revenue management for third-party billing by integrating Sage Intacct's revenue management tools. So these tools enable you to process, defer, and recognize revenue from external invoices with greater accuracy. So this would begin when an invoice is sent to a customer outside of Sage Intacct and then imported into Intacct as a transaction. So that you can prepare and post those transactional line items from the revenue transaction entries page that will update the subledger and the general ledger to ensure that accurate revenue impact. And uh, so what you would do here is, let's go back into order entry. So same place where we are actually. Order entry, setup, configuration. Or actually, sorry, this would be, so you would need to do this on the transaction definitions, not within the configuration. So order entry, setup, transaction definitions. Now I need to go back to the top level. I'm at the entity level. I apologize. Let's go back to our top level, setup, transaction definitions. We would click and edit next to whichever definition we want to allow for the use for external revenue management. And then we would go to, where is it? Display drafts on the revenue transaction entries page. So this would be our little checkbox there. So you can use any third-party billing system and import your external revenue data into Sage Intacct. So those are going to be imported into a draft state for the configured transaction definition, and will automatically appear on the revenue transaction entries page where you can then edit, prepare, and post them in bulk. And then there is a new bulk actions run page to monitor the posting process. So once again, that article that I have in the slide deck will walk you through a lot of what I just talked about and kind of walk you through the rest of the steps for setting that up. There's a little screenshot of that revenue transaction entries page. All right, AP automation with purchasing. So this is a fun one. This is not to be confused with just the standard AP automation. So this is an add-on to AP automation. So this AP automation with purchasing. So this drafts the incoming vendor invoice and then matches it to any previous documents, such as the purchase order or receiver. So you define how that incoming purchase document maps to existing source transactions in a one-time setup. So then instead of using those instead of converting purchasing documents or purchasing transactions to vendor invoices, you kind of let Sage match the incoming vendor invoices, and that would be using that flow that you see there on the screen. So emailing or uploading vendor invoice documents for automated processing. It will then use that AI to detect the vendor and match vendor invoice to that purchasing transaction. It will then create a draft vendor invoice for you with the source document attached. Line items populate based on that source transaction. You would review the draft vendor invoice, validate it, and then post. And your corrections are fed back to the AI engine where it updates. So it only gets smarter over time as you continue to use it. So let's take a look at a demo environment with that. I'm not going to walk through. We're not going to sit here and wait for, I think it takes a little bit for it to do it. I had one of my coworkers test it and she said it took a little bit. So too long for me to try and demo for you, unfortunately, but I will show you the output of it and kind of setting it up. So within our environment here, so you would need to be subscribed to AP automation. So if we go to our AP setup and configuration first, then we would need to have our bill automations settings set up and configured for upload and email services. So we can see the configuration here, top level, all of our entity levels for bill upload, if we were to upload it. And then for our email services, then we have our top level and entities, and then the mailbox that those would be emailed to. So the mailbox here is where you would send that document for it to be uploaded. All right. So that would be the AP side of things. And then within purchasing configuration, then you would need to have these automation setting turns on. So automate purchasing transactions and document matching. And then you could set up for those entities. So you could put in the target and the source. So uh, the document that you're emailing or uploading would be your target, and then the source document for that. So what is it connecting back to? In this instance, vendor invoice connecting back to a purchase order. So how that looks after you would email it on the bills page. So let's go to AP bills. Then you can see these two kind of in the middle of the screen there are from an emailed document. So you can see source, email, import expectations, who the recipient was, and who sent it. So it is smart enough to detect duplicates. So sent the same document twice to see what it did. You can see the first one, fine. Second one, it's like, oh, this one I think might be a duplicate. So it is smart enough to recognize if somebody goes and uploads on one side and somebody emails on another. It will attempt to recognize duplicates for you. And like I said, only get smarter over time as you continue to use it. But you can see if we view this, you can see our invoice that got created, we can see that source document attached here. So this would have been the document that she emailed in with our wonderful information on it. So you can see it pulled in that vendor, pulled in our bill number. It's got our total amount there. So it kind of looked at this document and created this transaction for you. So this is a very useful and cool tool that is only going to keep getting better. And I know that a lot of people are interested in this and will start using it. But that is just a little glimpse into AP automation with purchasing. You can see kind of our configuration and a little workflow guide that it has there for it. So emailing or upload, all that AI work that it's doing, and then it's going to draft that vendor invoice. You're going to make those revisions and corrections, and then it is looking at what changes you made to feed that back to its AI engine and make it better for you for the next time. All right, and that is going to bring us to our next polling question number 5. And that is going to be, are you interested in learning more about AP automation with purchasing? Kind of gauge the audience here. So yes, I would love to learn more. Not yet, maybe that's going to apply to me soon, but I just don't have the time to look at that right now. Or not sure.
All right, couple more seconds to make your choice, and then we're going to move right along, Connor.
Awesome.
All right. I'm not going to share the results on that one. We can just move along.
All right, perfect. So next is going to be supplies inventory. So there's going to be, so this is a new supplies inventory subscription or in supply item management. So when serving communities or clients, facilities need to have essentials on hand to operate their business efficiently. So many organizations are going to stock supplies to ensure they're on hand as needed. So the supplies inventory provides a convenient and efficient way to manage employee requests for items needed to run your business. So your supplies manager can easily review and fulfill incoming supply requests and ensure accurate accounting as supplies are consumed. So when you set up the supplies inventory, you'll create the items that your business requires to operate. These can include administrative items like paper, pens, coffee, furniture items, equipment, monitors, keyboards, cables. Then your employees can create requests when they need supplies, and the supplies manager can use the supplies workbench to complete the following workflow activities, which would be reviewing incoming supply requests and evaluate reorder needs based on most needed items, creating new purchase orders or transferring in-stock items between warehouses, or replenishing the in-house availability for most requested items. There are two ways that you can subscribe to this. This is going to be if you are currently using inventory control to purchase items that you sell, you can enable supplies inventory within your inventory control application, and you can use the additional functionality to track items you use. If you only want to order supply items to support your business operations, you can subscribe to the supplies inventory, which would include limited inventory control functionality. So a couple different ways, couple different subscriptions that would apply to you there. All right. It kind of goes into those two different subscribing options. Then you have a new look for projects. So Sage Intacct has added new options to configure the projects page so that you can select the tabs that you want to appear on your projects. So you can see the list, the kind of screenshot over there on the right for all those new options. So the newest ones are going to be the project contracts tab, the project invoices tab, the resource and billing tab, which was previously known as the resources and pricing tab. And then the invoice options tab has been removed, and that has been moved into the resource and billing section. So that the great new thing is that project contract tab allows you to track projects and project contract lines from the project itself. So if you can see in that screenshot there, if you're looking at that project information, you can go over to that contracts tab and you can view those contracts and contract lines straight from within there. So great new visibility into your projects page. You then also have new variance analysis reports. So if your company was created using any of the quick start templates, then you can install one of the new variance analysis reports to analyze your budget performance by department or location. So you can see those three new reports there, just the standard variance analysis by department or by location. So these are going to be useful for CFOs, controllers, department managers, or really anyone monitoring your organization's budget. I know it's small, but you can see in that screenshot of the report itself, you can see that actual column, that budget column, and then you have that color scaled variance column to show you kind of how you're doing in comparison to that budget. So if you install the version that reports by department or location, then you would need to edit the report in the financial report writer after you've installed it. And on the filters tab, add either a department group or a location group, depending on which report you installed. That article, and if you click on the new variance analysis report, it's going to walk you through how it works, how you can install the report, adding those groups and permissions that you need for that as well. So a few great new reports that you can utilize in your environment as well. And then we do have some new, and there are some early adopter features out there. So if you are not familiar with the early adopter program, so any of these kind of new releases that are going to become open to the general public later on down the road, but they're just testing it out. And for those that are interested and want to be a part of these new releases, then you can enroll in that early adopter program to access some of these features early. The space for those are normally limited, so just because you're interested doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to become an early adopter. But these are just some of the early adopter features that are out there right now that they've listed on their newest release. So the Copilot Close Assistant, enhanced currency support for funds transfers, new affiliate entity dimension for easier tracking and reporting, lending management, and then improved platform trigger creation for post requests. So you can click on any of these links, like the Copilot Close Assistant. I know this one is a popular one that's coming. So this is gonna give you all that information on it. So kind of shows you what it is. So navigation for closed tasks and subledgers in the general ledger, and delivers insights into the closed status across those entities and subledgers to create one summary view. So you can see a little screenshot there. The assistant kind of showing what needs to be closed, close AR, AP, cash management. So you'll be able to, within a quick glance, see if those books are closed, if there's any unposted items. So if bills, invoices, journal entries have been entered but are not yet posted. Kind of helps you complete other tasks, bank reconciliations, running those analysis reports we just talked about, and gives you a little closed books overview. So it does give you some information about that early adopter program and what you would need. So if you are interested in any of those, then you can reach out to us and we can help you get connected to see if you can become an early adopter. There are new trainings and videos out there within Sage University from the newest release as well. So you can sign into Sage University through that link there. If you haven't done so, you can access the new trainings and videos here through this link. So these are all the new videos that are available to you from the newest release. So you have training courses for projects, reporting, uh, time and expenses, nonprofit, and then new product videos. So some more stuff on accounts payable and purchasing. So what we were just kind of talking about. So setting it up and configuring it, um, and automating those purchasing transactions. So feel free to view those videos if you're interested in learning some more as well. If they have any different content in there that we didn't cover, setting up journal entry approvals, restriction releases for nonprofit, exploring those enhanced lists a little bit deeper, those enhanced lists that we looked at early on in the new features, and then some Sage Intacct planning stuff. So some great new videos out there for you as well that you can use, review in the Sage University. So that is going to lead us to polling question number 6.
Great.
Do you have a custom domain listed in Sage Intacct? Yes, I think so, but not sure. No. What is a custom domain?
All right. Give it a couple more seconds, everyone. Please make your selection.
All right. Looks like we are mixed across the board there.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what it is, then and if you probably do have it, but uh, coming in May 25, you need to authenticate and validate your custom domain. So beginning in May 25, outgoing emails sent from Sage Intacct using those custom domains will require authentication and validation for every domain that will be used to ensure uninterrupted mail service. So you can use that link here that I have. If you have questions or need assistance, then you may submit a support ticket to us. But this link here will walk you through why this is important, how it works. So indicating, adding and authenticating and validating your domain. So if you want to avoid any email deliverability issues that might affect your communications to customers and partners, make sure that you are authenticating your domain by May 2025. I want to reiterate it as much as I can because we want to get this to you early so that we have time to help you through this. If you are not able to figure it out on your own, you can reach out to our support desk. We're more than willing to help. right now we have the bandwidth and time for if, there needs to be a lot of back and forth or troubleshooting, things like that. There's no stress because we're in end of February and this doesn't need to be technically be done until May. But if you wait until April 30th, or maybe even in May, and you're like, I'm not able to send emails right now, what's going on? Then you may be one of the many that do that. And then our support team is flooded with these. We don't have the time. It's a more time pressing, sensitive issue. Everyone's stressed, everyone's nervous, everyone's trying to do what they need to do. And we want to avoid that as much as possible. So if you can be on top of it, make sure that you follow this information and see if you can get it done. We are more than willing to help, but May 2025 is when that is going to go. So when that new release comes out for Intacct is going to be kind of when this runs and comes into play as well. All right. We do have a couple upcoming webinars. So Sage Intacct CRE, that is going to be simplifying complex job costing with Sage Intacct. That's going to be on March 19th, 2025. That is going to be led by the wonderful Misty Palick. And then we have the Healthcare Q1 webinar on March 28th. That is going to be making data actionable for healthcare financial management. That will be led by Shay Simpson. So make sure that you are, if either of those interest you, that you're signing up for those. If you haven't received any information on those, I'm sure you will shortly. I think that Dawn has a couple polling questions of her own. I will let her get to one of those right now.
All right. And this one, we're asking if you would like to be a customer success story for LBMC and Sage. And I know that we have at least one person, maybe two, who's in the audience who have participated in these kinds of customer success stories. It's really a wonderful opportunity to show that you're future proofing your organization or your business. And the writers and they do a really nice job of putting you in the spotlight. So if you are interested, please say yes, and I will be in contact with you, and we'd love to feature you as a customer showcase. And then do you want me to go ahead with the final poll question, Connor? Are you going to move to the next slide?
I will move to the next slide if you want me to. I
Yeah,
can go to the next one. Okay, perfect. So we just want to thank, yes, were you about to say something, Don?
go ahead.
Okay, so we want to thank our sponsor, Velixo, for this. So if you're not familiar with Velixo, they augment the core reporting, budgeting, and planning experience of Sage Intacct. So it is a self-service Excel add-in that provides full governance and deep integrations with Intacct, offers users a seamless and real-time reporting and planning experience within the comfort of Excel. So you can feel free to learn more about them. If you don't know about them already, you can go to their website and find out more details. But we do want to thank them for sponsoring, being our sponsor. I think Dawn has one more polling question for us, and then we'll be wrapping up.
Yep. Because Connor had a fun St. Patrick's Day one, I came up with one too. So St. Patrick is known for founding the first Irish pub, driving the snakes out of Ireland, writing the Book of Kells, or his great love of Irish folk dance. Okay, I'm going to end the poll here. And our audience, more than half of you know that St. Patrick was known for driving the snakes out of Ireland. So thank you for having fun with us.
All right. Well, I want to thank y'all for taking the last 2 hours of your day with me. It's been a pleasure. I hope that you learned something from me, whether it be the fun new features within Sage Intacct or learn something from our hot topics with the invoice templates and email templates. But thank you all for attending, and I really appreciate your time and your loyalty to us. And then I'll let Dawn maybe say any closing words if she wants to. But once again, just thank y'all for your time today.
Connor, great presentation. Everybody, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you, everyone.